Ow.
Do you want me to tell her to do a mic test?
In a couple of minutes.
In a couple of minutes. Give me
Yeah.
like a...
That looks better. Hello, Roses Live. That sounds horrendous. Because it wasn't working, so now I need to find out if it does work. Hello. I can just barely. There we go. That's better. All right, now I can go put this back on the stand.
Is it working now? Hello and welcome to the Men's Badminton Open. We currently have 3 courts, game currently going on one court, it looks like, or 2 courts. This is the Men's Badminton. Apologies for the delay in the stream. We have 14-16 on the first court, closest to us. A bit of conference between the Lancaster teammates before York serve. Some very tight hitting appears to have just been out. The crowd is very excited about the games going on currently. Very heavy hits. Oh! And a success for York there. 16-17 to York. Some play underway on court 2. Very long hits. And that was out. It looks like 2 of the pitches are currently warming up, while court 1 is in play. Some discussion between the York teammates. This is doubles men's open first for badminton. Even though it is very noisy in here with a lot of cheering, these players are focused on what they're doing. And hit out for Lancaster, so another point to York on court 1. The York teammates looking very happy about that. Another point to York, so it is 19-18 on court 1. Some very good play on court 3. A success for Lancaster there on court 3. Into the net there for York. meaning another point for Lancaster on court 1. A success for Lancaster on court 3. 2020. Some loud appreciation for York on the badminton courts. Even though we are in Lancaster, this Roses, there is no less support for York. Oh, a very close play there on court 1, but Lancaster managed to get it, and that is a point to Lancaster on court 1. Fantastic playing from the team of Lancaster players on court 1. These players are working very hard to ensure they're successful. Lots of appreciation, cheering, clapping. Supporters are in full force here today. Some intense playing on court 1, and Lancaster are successful, scoring another point on court 1. Serve from Lancaster, court 1. York manages to just get it between his legs, unable to save that. It is a very close game on court 1. These teams are very evenly matched. Tries to go close, but not successful in getting York out. That was just in, so that Lancaster player must be quite frustrated. He didn't try and get that more than he did. York serving on court 1, Lancaster serving on court 2, and Lancaster serving on court 3. Out for York on court 3. Applause from Lancaster supporters for that. And on court 2, another serve from Lancaster. Out from York. Out from York on court 1. This is the thing with taking a break on court 1. So that is 1-1 for Lancaster on court 1. So taking a break there. Some discussion on court 2, I believe. I didn't see what they were discussing. Into the net from York on court 2. Very heavy hit from Lancaster on court 3, leading York to hit it into the net. So another point to Lancaster on court 3. Hit into the net from Lancaster on court 2, and applause from the York supporters. Lancaster successful on court 3. Very tense game on court 2 currently. Is it going to be over? But it is over, but it is in fact out. They're starting to get ready to play again on court 1. Starting a new game with a success for Lancaster in the last game on court 1. Court 2, York player hits it out. So another point to Lancaster on court 2. Getting ready to play again on court 1, taking their time for the next set. Tense game on court 2, and York hits it into the net. So that is another point to Lancaster, and court 1 back. Lancaster hits it out. That is a point to York on court 1. Just over the net, York player manages to hit it. Heavy hit from Lancaster player there, causing York player to hit it out, but they're still supporting each other. This is the men's open first doubles. And this is the thing with doubles, is you have that support even when you are unsuccessful, like on court 1 just now. supporting each other, shaking hands. We're in this together. Very close to the net on court 1, but now wide. Heavy hits from York player on court 1. And not quite able to get that on court 1, so another point for Lancaster. It is currently 3-2 on court 1 to York, with one game won for Lancaster. Very evenly matched teams overall. 3-3 on court 1. With games in full swing on all 3 courts. I'm currently watching 3 courts at once, so bear with me as I try to keep track of all 3 of them. Intense play on court 1 again. York players still supporting each other even when plays are unsuccessful. Court 2, heavy hits from Lancaster players. Now gentle, more just over the net. Lancaster players very happy with that success in managing to get it very close to net, so York players simply could not hit it back. Fall over on court 1, but alas, York was still successful in enabling to hit that shuttlecock back over the net. The crowd is definitely excited for this game of badminton. Badminton is one of many sports currently being played in this Roses competition of Lancaster versus York. You can find more on Roses Live, as well as live streams on Roses Live's YouTube channel. Looks like there are currently breaks going on courts 2 and 3, but court 1 is still in play. Lancaster hitting the shuttlecock into the net, and so York scoring another point. It's currently 6-7 to York on court 1. Heavy hits from Lancaster players. York still able to hit it back. Will they be able to get this one? Yes. Some fantastic play from Lancaster men's first team. York as well, bringing their game. This is a tense, evenly matched game between these 4 players on court 1. 6-8 to York on court 1 currently. Oh, some intense hits. York player tries to hit the shuttlecock, but is unsuccessful, so another point to Lancaster. It's currently 6-9 to York on court 1. Other players from the other courts appear to be watching. And some very long rallies, and then now shorter, but then heavy hit again, but unfortunately into the net. The Lancaster crowd are very happy about that. 6-10 to York on court 1. Lancaster serving on court 1. York hits it out. So that's another point to Lancaster on court 1. More cheering for Lancaster. Yeah. York happy about that. 7-12 to York on court 1. And hit outside Lancaster. York are happy about that. Is 8-12 to York on court 1. There is currently no play on courts 2 and 3. And most of the players seem to be watching this game taking place on court 1, which is a very tense game. Lancaster serving, taking their time. Short serve, but leads to some very long rallies. And Lancaster player hits the shuttlecock out of the court. And so that is another point to York. 9-13 to York currently. York hits the shuttlecock into the net. Some support for each other from the Lancaster players as they serve. Going for the shorter serves. Very close to the net at the moment, but hit it far, but too far. And that is another point to Lancaster. That is 9-12 to York currently. Some support for York from their teammates, and applause for Lancaster as they score another point. Serve from Lancaster. Again, getting very close up to the net. Seems to be a lot of hits out. Go from being very close up to the net and then somebody tries to hit it a bit further and quite often ends up being out. So it's interesting tactics going on. Yeah, again, a serve very close to the net from York player. And then some heavy hits. Another point to York as Lancaster player hits it onto their own side, giving York another point. We are currently on 11-16 on court 1, with no games currently taking place on courts 2 and 3. Potentially those games have been brought to a close. Another serve, short and then quite long, and into the net from York, scoring another point for Lancaster. It is now 11-17 to York. So that's 17 points for Lancaster and 11 points for York. Success for York as Lancaster players unable to hit that shuttlecock back. 12 points for York and 17 points for Lancaster, with Lancaster currently with 1 win. .12 points to York and 17 points to Lancaster. A serve into the net from Lancaster player, but support from his teammate. A serve from York now. Very close to the net. And some longer rallies. Support from many, many spectators for Lancaster right now, as of course we are in Lancaster. But the York team, nevertheless, here to support their teammates. This is the Badminton Open First doubles match currently. Currently have 1 game going on court 1, with many of the York and Lancaster players from the other games that have now completed giving their support to their teammates. We currently have York on 15 points and Lancaster on 20, with Lancaster 1 game up. That was another point scored by York, so it is now 16 points for York. Much applause for Lancaster as they are successful in winning another game. Lots of applause, and now the teams are taking a break. We'll see if more games start up. Congratulations from all of their teammates. Same for York. Whatever the result, these teams are supporting each other. There is currently a lull in play. Teammates talking to each other, getting ready for whatever they're doing next. And much attention turning over to the women's on the court next to us. You can find this stream and many other streams, including the women's, which is just across on the other court, which is where much of the crowd is turning their attention, on Roses Live, on the Roses Live website, and also the Roses Live YouTube channel, where this and many, many other events are currently being streamed today and tomorrow, and also yesterday on Friday. Also check the Roses Live website for updates on the results. much applause for the women's badminton going on the court cross, while the men on this court, this is the open first badminton, currently waiting for play to start back up. York players talking with each other, getting ready. You can find this and many other streams on Rose's Live website. Discussion going on between Lancaster players. And York players, as many are getting ready for their next games. Discussion going on between Lancaster player and a few York players, not quite sure why. Potentially setting up for their next games. This is the men's open tennis first, not tennis, apologies. This is the badminton. I was on tennis yesterday. This is the badminton open first here in the Sports Centre at Lancaster University today. With at least one success from Lancaster in the doubles, which they were very happy about. There is also much applause for the squash going on very close by, and the women's. While there is currently no play going on the court for the men's first badminton. Players seem to be starting to get ready for whatever might be next. With rackets in hand. Handshakes going on. I think that is another Lancaster player. And if you can hear that applause, that is for the women's badminton, which is going on the court across, and many of the Lancaster players have turned their attention over to that game to support the women as well. Much applause for the squash. And successes on the women's badminton court as well. There is currently no play going on the badminton men's court. We will keep you updated as to when play does resume. This is the badminton open first, currently taking place in the Sports Centre. Currently a lull in play, with much of the team turning their attention to the women's badminton on the court across to support them. It does look like some players might be getting ready to start again. We will keep you updated as to when that happens. If anybody's interested in the overall scores currently for Roses, Lancaster is on 70 and York is on 51. We have some warming up, it appears to be going on between a few York players and some other players starting to get ready, so we suspect their match will be beginning soon. Two York players just warming up there, and a few Lancaster players getting ready to start warming up for their next matches. That should be starting soon. As I was just saying, if you're interested in the overall scores for Lancaster versus York in this Roses 2024, Lancaster are currently on 70 points and York are on 51, with the points required to win being 172.5. So it's all to play for today, including at this badminton, and these players are definitely getting their head in the game. That cheering is for the women's badminton just on the court across. You can find that and many other live streams on our Roses Live website, as well as Roses Live YouTube channel, where many events are being streamed throughout the day. 4 Lancaster players currently warming up. 2 York players were warming up, but are now having a little chat. Getting ready for their next games, which should be taking place soon. There's a relatively decent crowd here. Some among the stands, some on the sides of the court. Many Lancaster sport players supporting their fellow players on the women's team across from them, and also just friends and family, as well as anybody who is currently listening to any of our streams, may it be from York or from Lancaster. Currently, many players warming up on the courts. There is currently no play taking place on the badminton courts. If you've just tuned in, you are listening to the Open First Badminton today. There's currently no play going on. They are warming up. We just completed the men's doubles. That is the Open First doubles, and I believe they may be going into singles or doubles. We will find out when they start playing. There was one success for Lancaster. I'm not sure of the result on the other 2 courts, but definitely a lot of excitement from Lancaster supporters here. But York are bringing their game. Some very close match teams. York and Lancaster, certainly 2 universities with sports all round that are bringing their game. Two Lancaster players currently warming up. Few York players were warming up, getting ready. There you go, 2 more York players warming up currently. Some York players and Lancaster players talking, getting their head ready for their next game. This is the Badminton Open First here at this Roses. An absolutely bustling and busy sports hall. We have the women's badminton taking place just across from the Open First badminton court. And also the squash taking place on the balcony upstairs. So a lot of excitement, a lot of cheering. It's very busy and bustling. Appears like there may be some play starting on court 1. Yeah, so a game has begun on court 1 with, it appears, Lancaster scoring a point and York also scoring a point. A serve from York, very short but getting wider, very long there, but that was out, meaning another point for Lancaster on court 1. Serve from Lancaster, going short, able to get it past their opponent, so another point for Lancaster. That is 3 points for Lancaster and 1 point for York on court 1. Play does not seem to have resumed on any of the other courts. Close to the net there, meaning another point for Lancaster. Lancaster doing very well in the badminton here today, but York still putting up a fight. Out there for York, meaning another point for Lancaster. Lancaster serving. Lancaster serving again. York hits it quite far, and Lancaster unfortunately hits it under the net, meaning a point for York. So that is 2 points for York and 6 points for Lancaster on court 1. Play does not seem to have resumed on any of the other courts. Lancaster serving again, York serving. Successful serve. 4-6 to York. Serve from York. Lancaster player just able to get that one, hits it back. York player able to hit it back. York player not able to return it there. 4 points for York and 7 points for Lancaster on this game on court 1. Play does not seem to have resumed on any of the other courts yet. They're just warming up over there. But on court 1, we have a game currently taking place with 4 points for York and 8 points for Lancaster. This is the men first badminton taking place here today. That's another point scored for Lancaster on court 1. Much applause from the crowd, also for the women's badminton taking place right next to this. Lots of badminton going on and lots of excitement from the crowd. It's a very loud sports hall, very bustling and busy right now. On courts 2 and 3, we currently just have warm-ups going on between the players there. But on court 1, we have a game currently taking place. York hitting the shuttlecock out, meaning that Lancaster scores another point. It is 4-12 to York currently. Another point scored for Lancaster there as York unable to return the shuttlecock. Lancaster serving, York hitting it back very gently, Lancaster hitting it up, and then some heavy hits and a low hit, probably trying to catch the Lancaster players out, but unsuccessful as it does not go over the net, scoring Lancaster another point. Currently on 4-14. York to Lancaster. Lancaster score another point as York hit the shuttlecock out, meaning Lancaster currently on 15 points with York only on 4 on court 1. A point to York there as Lancaster hits the shuttlecock out. York unable to return that there. Lancaster score another point. Lancaster currently on 16 points. Definitely have a comfortable 2-point lead at the moment, Lancaster. They need to get to 20 points to be successful. A hit into the net from York, another point for Lancaster. Lancaster doing fantastically on court 1. Looks like some games might be starting up on courts 2 and 3. 19 points for Lancaster on court 1 with 5 points for York currently. York players seem to be keeping morale up. Shuttlecock gets stuck in the net from a hit from York player. Lancaster currently on 20, York on 5. Those Lancaster players must be very happy with their score as of so far. York hits the ball out of the court. The shuttlecock even. There are no balls in badminton. That is one win for Lancaster on court 1. Courts 2 and 3 appear to have begun their game. Some fantastic hits on court 1. York unfortunately hits into the net, so that'll be a point to Lancaster on court 2. Lancaster serving on court 2. York return it. Very nonchalant return there from Lancaster player. Long rallies. Lancaster just standing there, making York run around and do all of the work. Very long rallies. York player hitting very hard there, determined to catch those Lancaster players out. And into the net from York, so another point on court 2 goes to Lancaster. Play still taking place on court 3. Long rallies. And then some short, trying to catch each other out. They are locked in. Fantastic hit from Lancaster player there. York player not able to return it. Another point for Lancaster on court 3. Play has resumed on court 1 with Lancaster up 1 point on York. York player seems to have somewhat injured himself somehow, but seems to be getting back up and doing all right. Hit in the head by the shuttlecock, I believe. Play has resumed on court 1 for their second set. That went out, so another point to Lancaster. That is 0 points to York on this game and 2 points to Lancaster on court 1. A brief pause on courts 2 and 3. Getting ready for a serve, I believe. And that is York player serving on court 2. Long rallies there. Risky as it could easily be out, but they seem to be doing quite successfully with some very hard hits from York player there. And unfortunately, that was into the net, meaning another point to Lancaster on court 2. Much applause for Lancaster players on court 1 from the spectators. Lancaster serving again on court 1. Hits right close to the net, and that is unfortunately out, meaning a point to York. That is 2-4 to York on court 1. A hit into the net on court 2, meaning points to York. A hit into the net on court 3 from Lancaster player. Shuttlecock hit very high on court 1. Had to be hit twice. 3-5 on court 1 to York. Another point scored by Lancaster on court 1. York manages to get a fantastic hit in there. Lancaster players not able to return it. This match seems much closer than the last one. Lancaster currently up 1 on court 1, with the score for this game currently at 4-6 to York. Heavy hit from Lancaster player there, scoring Lancaster another point. 7 points for Lancaster on court 1 and 4 for York. Play resumes on court 1. Player falls over, causing York to be able to get a window to land their shuttlecock. 5-7 to York on court 1. Much applause also for the women's badminton going on just across from this men's badminton. Heavy hits on court 1. York manages to score a point on court 4. Not 4, 3. My apologies. Keeping track of 3 games at the same time is more of a challenge than you'd think. No, it's exactly as much of a challenge as you'd think. Play resumes on court 1. The reason I'm not giving you updates on the exact scores on courts 2 and 3 is because I can't see them. But court 1, I can give you live updates on, as I can see the score from where I am standing. A short serve to begin with, and a hit into York player, scoring Lancaster a point. This is the Open Badminton First, currently taking place in the sports hall. The women's badminton just across from it seems to have wrapped up, or is it in a lull? But the men's badminton in full force. A break seems to be taking place on court 3. On court 2, some intense play going on. A hit into the net from Lancaster player will be scoring York another point on court 2. Success from York on court 1. 8-12 to York on court 1. Serve from York, but unfortunately York hit it out. So another point for Lancaster on court 1. That is 13 points for Lancaster on court 1 and 8 points for York. The strong team here on court 1 definitely seems to be Lancaster, but it is all to play for. A hit into the shuttlecock from York scores Lancaster another point. Let's hope these York players can keep their head in the game and try and get this next set. More gentle hits close to the net. York players not able to return that. Perhaps their energy is waning. But Lancaster definitely doing very well on court 1. Intense play on court 2. Some very heavy hits from Lancaster players. York player trying to do some kind of hit from behind, but unsuccessful, scoring Lancaster points. Playing again, another heavy hit from York player on court 2. This is the men's double badminton. These are the men's first team for York and for Lancaster. Hit into the net from York, scores Lancaster another point on court 1. A success for Lancaster on court 2. York players not able to return the shuttlecock. Much applause from the Lancaster supporters. 9 19 points for Lancaster and 8 points for York on court 1 currently. Another success for Lancaster on court 1. A serve from Lancaster. Short and by the net. Lancaster player tries to hit the shuttlecock there. Is unsuccessful, but it ends up out anyway. And that is a success for Lancaster on court 1. With 2 wins there on court 1. Much high fives from supporters at the side. Those players from Lancaster must be very happy with themselves. But still support for those York players from their teammates. They did their best. Play still taking place on courts 2 and 3. Close to the net, and then a much heavier upwards hit from York player. A hit into the net from York, and the Lancaster crowd very happy with that. Lancaster players on court 2 very happy with that as well. You are watching the men's open tennis first, or the open badminton first. Apologies, it is not tennis. I was commentating tennis yesterday, so my brain is confuddled. A serve from York on court 2. Lancaster players hit it where they cannot return it. Very heavy hit from York player. Lancaster player very frustrated with himself for not being able to return that there. Play still taking place on courts 2 and 3. A hit from York into the net, and Lancaster crowd very happy about that as it scores Lancaster another point on court 2. A serve from York on court 3. Returned by Lancaster. A hit out from York on court 3 means success for Lancaster on court 3. A hit into the net again on court 2, scoring a point for Lancaster. The Lancaster Badminton men's first team bringing their game, and York struggling to do anything to combat it. But a success for York there as Lancaster player hits the shuttlecock out of the court. Cheering and applause from York players who have now finished their games. There may be fewer York supporters here, but they are just as vocal as the Lancaster supporters at this Roses. Another hit into the net from York player on court 2, and applause from Lancaster supporters at the side of the courts. This is doubles open first badminton. I keep saying tennis. I sincerely apologize. This is not the tennis. This is badminton. They're 2 completely different sports. And in fact, the women's badminton across from here seems to have wrapped up, so much of the attention is now focused on these games currently taking place. The game on court 3 appears to have wrapped up or be taking a break. Yeah, it is just court 2 now. Some intense play. York players bringing their game. They're not giving up without a fight. And Lancaster players unable to return that hit. Serve for York. Lancaster taking a gentle approach, but not anymore. And that was out for York, so Lancaster supporters cheering on their teammates. A tense game here. We have 1 badminton game left. The other 2 have wrapped up. Going close to the net, and a heavy hit. That shuttlecock is moving very fast, and York unable to return that successfully and hit it into the net, meaning another point for Lancaster. And that is the end of that match, it appears, with York players coming to support their teammates despite their unsuccessful game. Lancaster very happy with that win there. There is currently no play on the courts, with games just having wrapped up. From my viewpoint, Lancaster have had at least 3 successes. I suspect more. This is the Badminton Open First, currently taking place in the sports hall. The women's badminton seems to be starting back up. It's just across the court from here. York players supporting each other. Even though Lancaster seem to be winning here. Much applause for the squash, I believe. A lot of sports going on in the sports hall here, with an absolutely fantastic energy from the crowd. It is absolutely bustling and busy in here. It appears a game may be beginning on court 3. Some tense play on court 3 there. Some heavy hits from Lancaster. York able to return all their hits though, trying to catch each other off guard. That was a very far hit, and Lancaster still able to return it, taking an approach slightly closer. Hit there. York players cheering on their teammates. Looks like on court 2, another game is about to begin as well. York unsuccessful in returning that shuttlecock on court 3. Another point for Lancaster. Lancaster serving there. Lancaster serving again on court 3. A gentle serve, but York players weren't caught off guard and were successful. Lancaster returning it into the net on court 3 there. Some support for each other on court 3 between the Lancaster players. Gentle serve from York. Heavy hit from Lancaster. It's, you know, a full-on dive there from York player. Skidding across the floor like he's in High School Musical. Cheers for York there. That is because on court 2, Lancaster returned the shuttlecock into the net. Unsuccessful hit there for York. Another point for Lancaster on court 2. We currently have 2 games going on courts 2 and 3. This is the Open First doubles badminton. A hit into the net from Lancaster. York teammates that have now completed their games cheering York on. There may not be as many of them as the Lancaster crowd, but alas, they are there to support their teammates nonetheless. Very busy, bustling sports hall it is right now. We currently have 3 sports going on. Well, 2 sports, 3 games. We have the women's badminton and the men's badminton, and also some squash taking place as well, all in the same court. So an absolutely bustling atmosphere here. Some fantastic play on court 2. Lancaster, although they were doing fantastically initially, not doing so great now, perhaps relaxing a bit too much. All York players just ready to bring it like nothing else. A hit out though for York there. Lancaster scoring another point. The Lancaster players don't seem to be that phased when they score. Their heads are really in the game there on court 2. Long rallies on court 2. Lancaster returning the shuttlecock, and York unable to do the same. Scoring Lancaster another point on court 2. A serve from York on court 2. Lancaster returning it there into the net. Still supporting each other, those two Lancaster players on court 2. York definitely happy about Lancaster beginning to lose their winning streak. Fantastic play from York player there. Hitting the shuttlecock just over the net, and Lancaster player unable to return it without completely hitting the shuttlecock into the net. Another point for York. York very happy right now as to the successes going on court 2. Although Lancaster have so far been doing well, York are bringing their game. Those two York players just giving each other a little high five, definitely very happy with their successes at the moment. But can they continue it? Lancaster players bringing their game, hitting the shuttlecock out, it looks like. Intense play on court 3. Lancaster just in, and York unable to return the shuttlecock there. They appear to be taking a break on court 3, so potentially a success for Lancaster. I'm unsure at the moment. Looks brief, looks like they're returning. Only a brief break there, getting ready to serve again, potentially. Lots of support from the crowd here today. This is 2024 Roses, hosted at Lancaster University. On court 2, that was a hit into the net by York, scoring Lancaster another point. A brief handshake between Lancaster players. Appears to be a break. Play still going on, I believe, on court 3. Yes, we have games currently going on courts 2 and 3 here at the men's first badminton. Long rallies for the badminton on court 2. A fall on court 3. I did not quite see as to what was the cause of that. Probably too passionately trying to get the shuttlecock. Support for each other from York on court 3. A serve from Lancaster on court 3. And York hits it out of the court on court 3. Lancaster serving again after that success as York hit the shuttlecock out of the court. Some very long high rallies there from York, hitting it out of the court. Play still going on court 2. They're definitely making each other run around with those rackets. Hitting back and forth between those two players. Lancaster player not able to keep the energy up, and faults, meaning the shuttlecock hits the court, and York score another point there. If you've just tuned in, this is the Badminton Open First. We have 2 games currently going on here. You can find live coverage of this game and many other sports currently taking place today here at Roses 2024 on the Roses Live website and also on the Roses Live YouTube channel. As well as coverage on University of York Radio and Bailrig FM. This is the men's Open First badminton. A serve on court 2, not deemed successful, so serving again. York players return it, and Lancaster player returns it into the net. Lancaster players seem to be beginning to get frustrated with themselves on court 2. Lancaster have been relatively successful so far in this badminton, but York not making it easy for them. York currently in the lead, I believe, on court 2. Lancaster players definitely looking frustrated with themselves, having a little conversation, trying to get their head in the game as York serve on court 2. Very high and far hits there. Lancaster serving there on court 2. Lancaster unsuccessful there. York get the next serve. Those players on court 2 for Lancaster seem to be getting frustrated. York players just on their game, it seems. Some very intense play on court 2. Lancaster player falls over, meaning he is not able to return the shuttlecock there. York players very happy about that. Gentle serve there, very high hit from York player. Lancaster player able to hit it back. Very intense there. Lancaster player unfortunately hits it into the net there. York seem to have been successful in winning a game there on the second court. Other York players coming to high five and congratulate their teammates in that win. Still play taking place on court 3. Courts 1 and 2 now over, with just this doubles game currently taking place on court 3. Over the head of York players there on court 3, scoring Lancaster another point. Heavy hit there from York player. York supporters cheering on their teammates after that success. York now serving. Very far hit, successful hit from York there. York now serving. Lancaster currently able to return it, and so are York. Closer to the net now, but nope, they're back in the distance. Cheers from Lancaster supporters there as Lancaster are able to get the shuttlecock past York players. Lots of support now for this last game of men's badminton. This is the Open First Badminton. York gets the shuttlecock past Lancaster players. Much applause from York supporters. There aren't many York supporters. This is the supporters here for York. Mostly their teammates, but nevertheless, they are as loud as the Lancaster supporters here. Play still taking place on court 3. York unsuccessfully tries to return that there. Cheers from Lancaster supporters. York supporters still trying to give their teammates energy currently. This is the Badminton Open First, currently taking place in the sports hall, where there is an absolutely bustling atmosphere with many supporters. Cheers for York there on court 3. There is currently one game of badminton place. Lancaster, fantastic return there, scoring them the point. There is currently one game taking place. Lancaster unsuccessful in returning the shuttlecock. York player falls over, unable to return that there. And hence, points for Lancaster. Serve from Lancaster, heavy hit from York. Gets it past Lancaster player. So applause from York supporters there. And that appears to be the end of that game. York very happy, so I suspect they won that. This has been the men's badminton first. There are currently no games going on, although I'm sure some will start up again soon. York players seem to be very happy. This appears to be quite a neck-and-neck game of the badminton, with some great successes for Lancaster, but also successes for York. So it is all to play for. There are currently no games going on, as there is a lull while they get ready for their next games. You can find this and many other Roses live streams on the Roses Live YouTube and also the Roses Live website. Game beginning on court 2, it looks like. Intense game, York successful there on court 2.
Right, hello, we have had a switch of commentators. I am Connor, I do not go to this university, but I am here for the vibes, so I will be covering the rest of this match. I do not know what the score is, but I've been watching these two from Lancaster and these two from York, and they seem like very strong pairings, so this should be a good remainder of the game. I'm not sure who's winning, but Lancaster have just gained a point. The guy in the t-shirt with the black shoulders, he has been performing very well. Very good defensive shots. You even go for the behind the back shot there. Wasn't successful, but it was a good effort. York won that point, so they will be serving now. Some confidence there from Lancaster. It's very back and forth. It's switching service a lot. There's a lot of passion going into this as well. It's flying all over the place. This is just falling to the floor and skidded trying to get that shot. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful, but it was a good effort. Lancaster take the point from a out of service, out of shot from York. York are going for some very defensive clears, but they're just a bit too far, unfortunately. They keep going out. And Lancaster are capitalising on it. They keep exploiting those shots. They know how to set York up to respond. And it's working for Lancaster at the moment as they are serving again. But unfortunately it doesn't go well, just clip the net. It's interesting seeing what sides, how they play. Lancaster, very defensive, they're forcing the errors from York. York are very attacking. So working in Lancaster's favour at the moment, it seems. We'll see if that changes. There's a squash going on behind me as well. It's very loud. I don't know if it's being picked up on the microphone, but plenty going on in this sports hall today. Yeah, York successful in the attacks. Lancaster are serving for York to push them very quickly, going for the drop shots, and Lancaster couldn't respond to that one. But they will win the point this time. It's quite difficult to commentate badminton because it's very fast-paced. You know, making comments and then another point has been played already. So we'll see how this goes. It's been fun so far. Just a new shuttle for this match. Churning through. The combination of Lancaster's defensive play, setting up York for the attacks, is destroying the shuttles. So, fresh one has just arrived. It seems very equal. Okay, I've got a view of the scoreboard. I believe it's 9-all. With one game each, 9-all. So, yeah, very close. I was right to say this is a very close game. There is no sign of who could win at the moment. So we're in for a very good game. We are just having a short break as it's 10-9 to York, I believe. And they are swapping sides. I believe this is the deciding game of this match, so halfway through this game they will swap sides for the sake of a fair game. Okay, right, I've got the score. It's I believe it's 10-all now. It's Lancaster just lost that point. York are very good at setting up Lancaster with the defensive shot so they can come in and hit some very powerful smashes. There's quite a strong height advantage too. It's a bit difficult to see from this angle as I'm up on the balcony. But it seems like Lancaster are just a tiny bit smaller, which makes it easier, a bit easier for York. Longer legs, longer arms, which can reach a bit further. York have ramped up their attacking plays, and it is working. I believe it is 13-12 at the moment, 13-11. I'm looking at the back of the scoreboard, so I'm having to reverse the numbers. So apologies for the mix-ups. Lancaster seems to be struggling at the moment. York have won their last few points with smash shots. Their tactics are working. York have taken another point. I wasn't sure if that was theirs, though. It was a very close shot. Landed on the back line, but I can't tell if it was over or just in. We'll have a VAR for next year's Roses. Lancaster are trailing. It is 16-12, I believe. Make that 16-13. We just got a point back from a service fault from York. 16-14. That's what I mean by badminton. It's very fast-paced. The direction of the game can change very, very quickly, as Lancaster are almost making it level. Lancaster have taken yet another point. The defense is working. They're exploiting the drop shots. They'll hit a few drop shots, wait for York to hit it high, and then they will swoop in and smash it at them. Is what I'm gathering is the tactic from Lancaster here today. On court 2. It's looking like a York victory, could be very close. It's 19-15 to York at the moment. I believe it's all level here now on court 2. There we go, yeah, 19 all between Lancaster and York. This could go to 21 all, in which to win you have to win by 2 clear points. Sometimes that can go very far, it can even go to 30. Both teams are very passionate to win this. Neither are going down without a fight. As York take the point and go 21-20 up. Lancaster responds with gaining a point back. It's a very back and forth game as York responds by taking the point back. There's genuinely no telling who could win this. I'm not sure who's going to control this game at the moment. Lancaster are gaining a point and then York are gaining a point. (22-21) to Lancaster. This could be match point. Unfortunately, Lancaster play their shot out. However, a service fault from York means that it is match point again to Lancaster. Can they do it? York are showing a brilliant effort here as they've denied the game to Lancaster once again. And playing some net shots here. Unfortunately, they still play a out of bounds shot. It is now 23-22 to York. This is match point to York. The remaining teams from the other matches have all crowded around the court. Everyone wants to know who wins this one. Match point once again to York. Can the visiting team take the lead? No, they cannot. As Lancaster gain another point. I believe it's now 25 apiece. And I believe that is it. I think York have just won. That was a very good match between both teams. major respect to them both for the effort put in there. And I'm not sure what's next here. I don't know if there's another round of matches here for the men's badminton, as both teams are congregating to congratulate each other. It's very unfortunate from Lancaster, though. They played very well, but I believe York seemed to know how to exploit the weaknesses. They knew when to strike, and it worked. It was a very unlucky defeat to Lancaster. So well done to York for winning that match. I arrived halfway through this match. I'm not sure how that has impacted the entire event, as I believe on the Roses website the scores are very close at the moment. On the other side of the sports hall is the women's first, I believe. There's a I'm passing over to Hannah, who will be commentating the rest of this match. York have just beat Lancaster on court 2, 2 games to 1.
Yeah, so two very evenly matched teams here, Lancaster and York, with quite a few successes for Lancaster, but also more recently successes for York. There is currently no play going on. This is the Badminton Open first. Some Lancaster players warming up. Lots of Lancaster supporters here, though the crowd generally dwindling from this morning. There's been a very bustling atmosphere here at the sports hall. Very, very busy. If you want to check out any of our other sports while we are waiting for the badminton to start back up, you can find them on the Roses Live website or on the Roses Live YouTube. Some Lancaster players warming up. Play should resume soon, but we are currently changing over. Some games going on the women's badminton. Just across, any applause you're hearing is probably for the women in the courts just across. There's also squash going on up here. They're playing some music and lots of excitement, generally. No play is currently going on here. If you head to the Roses Live website, you can see updates on how this weekend is going. Lancaster currently on 82 points to 52 for York, with 172.5 points required to win, so it is all to play for. But Lancaster currently in the lead. Overall, here at the badminton, these teams have been quite evenly matched, with quite a good few successes for Lancaster, as well as some successes for York. Lancaster players warming up here on the courts, with York players currently watching them. Apologies if you heard a loud bang. That was someone going into a squash court. And busy here in the sports hall. Roses in full steam currently. That cheering there was, I believe, for the women's badminton going on the court just across. This is the men's open first badminton. Currently there is no play going on, with 2 Lancaster players just warming up. If you want to watch any other streams while we wait for badminton to get back up, you can head to the Roses Live website or the Roses Live YouTube channel. Or or you can catch live streaming of Roses on the University of York and Bailrig FM radio stations. You can also find the schedule for this weekend on the Roses Live website. This is the Badminton Open Men's First in a bustling and busy sports hall. Currently no play taking place. Two Lancaster players practicing some fantastic moves there. I am Anna, commentating on behalf of the Roses Live team. We are bringing you live coverage of many sports across the weekend, including this, the Badminton Open Men's First. If you haven't heard me say that a million times, there's currently no play, so I'm doing my best to keep you entertained. I won't start making jokes because that's not my forte as a commentator. The York team seeming to have a chat on the side there. And the Lancaster team mostly turned around to observe the women's badminton taking place on the court just across. If you want to tune into the women's badminton, you can find that on Roses Live. It currently appears to be a tense game in the women's badminton, so worth tuning in. Lots of Lancaster supporters, less of a crowd than this morning. There was a very busy crowd when I came in at 11 this morning to set up for this badminton. Crowd somewhat dwindled. People, lots of sports going on, lots of places to be for all these spectators who are thoroughly enjoying this Roses hosted here at Lancaster University. It appears like some playing may be taking place soon. A few York players also warming up. Lancaster players still warming up. This is the Open Men's First badminton. So these are some of the best players from both universities. Been a fantastic play so far. We have 3 courts currently. And once the players are back in place, I suspect all 3 courts will be being used for games. 2 York players and 2 Lancaster players currently warming up. Some fantastic badminton being taken place. Very close at the moment. I am not aware of the exact scores so far. Lancaster have had at least 2 wins and so had York. But I think 6 games have taken place so far. So I'm not sure as to the result of the other 2. Once this game is over, the results will be uploaded to the Roses Live website. If you're getting sick of me saying that, I apologise. I'm also sick of saying I'm trying to fill airtime. Forgive me. On a side note, if you're wondering how on earth I ended up here commentating, it's because I'm part of Lancaster's radio society. I am of course impartial. Roses are pink, and I will give you coverage from both angles. I am here by myself, so I'm doing my best, I promise. Lots of players now warming up. I suspect they will play. I'm not sure whether they will be moving into singles or doubles. So far we have just had doubles. Two Lancaster players warming up and 4 York players warming up. Some very intense warm-ups. These players definitely wanting to bring their game. Lots of applause for the women's badminton going on. Some chants of "Let's go York" for the women's badminton. You can catch the women's badminton stream as well. Lots of the players now coming onto the court to practice and get ready for the next game. applause you hear is for the women's badminton. I think that there is one more game currently going on there. Both of the badminton games are taking place in the same sports hall. You can catch them on the separate streams though. Some intense warming up. These players know there is all to play for here at the badminton. This is the men's first badminton. Taking place here in the sports hall. So if you want to come watch in person, just head to the first sports hall. Go through a door, you'll see the events occurring. And hopefully there's a lot of space for people to come and sit. So if you are wanting to come and watch the badminton, there's plenty of space here. If you're watching from elsewhere off of Lancaster campus, welcome. This is the men's first badminton, if you didn't know that already. Looks like a game may be beginning on court 3. Yes, York serving there. Still practice going on court 1 and 2, but a game has begun on court 3. Success for York there as Lancaster player unable to return the shuttlecock. Lots of cheering from the crowd. That is for the women's going on. Looks like a game has just begun on court 2 as well. We are still with doubles here. So this is the open first badminton. We have 2 games currently taking place, one on court 2 and one on court 3. This, I suspect, is going to be the last games that take place. And looks like they're setting up on court 1 as well. Serve looks like from Lancaster about to take place on court 2. Some chatting going on though, just making sure they're ready. And there you go, there is a serve. Very close up to the net. Lancaster player almost falls over, unable to return that. And hence, York get that point. Lancaster there scoring a point on court 2. Game starting up on court 1, it appears. Believe that was just a point scored for Lancaster, or perhaps they're still warming up. Heavy hits from York there on court 1. I apologise if any scores I give you aren't exact. I currently can't see a scoreboard and I'm keeping track of 3 games at the same time. Intense play on court 2. Heavy hit on court 2 from Lancaster player. All of his energy going into that hit. Lancaster player, fantastic hit there. York unable to return that as it goes so close to the floor. On court 1, we now have a score. Court 1 is the only place where I can see the scoreboards currently. And that is another point to Lancaster on court 1. Lancaster currently 3-4 to York on court 1, I believe. With 4 points for Lancaster on court 1 and 3 points for York on court 1. Court 1 is the only court where I can see the score. That's why I'm telling you the score for there. If you're wondering what that very loud cheering is, I believe there was some fantastic success for the women's badminton, not sure on which side. Really making each other run around on court 3, and Lancaster hits the shuttlecock into the net, meaning York are successful in winning. Heavy hits on court 1. They're really making each other use all their energy. Lancaster player hits the shuttlecock into the net. And now York has a serve. We are currently neck and neck on court 1 with 6-6 Lancaster to York. I'm not aware of the exact scores on the other courts. (7-7) on court 1. A very close game taking place on court 1. Some intense play on court 2. Very far rallies there. Shuttlecock hitting into York player's leg, so he is unable to return it to Lancaster, which will be a point to Lancaster on court 2. A success for Lancaster on court 1. That is 7-9 for York on court 1. Intense play on court 2. Lancaster player very happy with that success on court 2. Applause from York, I believe, for the players on court 3. York have a small but vocal support team, I believe mostly made up of other badminton players. Lancaster have a bigger team. Well, not team, but group of supporters here at the side here. Intense play on court 1. Lancaster player hits it completely off to the side, potentially hitting some people in the audience. That is 11-9 for Lancaster on court 1. Hit into the net by Lancaster player on court 2. Swapping out a racket, it looks like. Or handing over a racket to another player. Hit into the net, I believe. Or did it go through the net? There appears to be a hole in the top of the net. Players on court 1 having a discussion, yeah. The shuttlecock was hit through the net on court 1. Lancaster and York players having a discussion about what call they're going to make. These are completely self-refereed or umpired games taking place here. A testament, I suppose, to the honesty of these players. Even though there is competition taking place, I believe a decision's been made on court 1. Not sure as to what it is. I suspect they are continuing to play, ignoring that last point. Going very high on court 1, and York player hits it very hard, unfortunately into the net. That is 12-10 on court 1 for Lancaster. We currently have games going on all 3 courts. Lancaster player hits the shuttlecock into the net on court 1. Lancaster and York now drawing on court 1 with 12-12. On court 2, Lancaster players supporting each other, boosting each other's morale. York serve the shuttlecock into the net. Lancaster getting the serve there. These players have been playing since around 11:30, so probably starting to tire somewhat now, but still absolutely bringing their game. This is a very tight match, very evenly matched teams. On court 1, we currently have 13 points to York and 12 points to Lancaster. York now taking the lead on court 1 after Lancaster leading initially, and York scored another point on court 1. Now 14-12 to York on court 1. Like I've mentioned before, court 1 is the only court where I have official scores. Lancaster managing to score another point on court 1, 14-13 to York. A very tight match taking place on court 1, and I'm sure similarly tight matches taking place on courts 2 and 3. There are currently 3 games taking place. A serve into the net on court 2, passing it over to Lancaster players to now serve. Handshakes on court 3 between Lancaster players, and they now seem to be taking a break. A somewhat nasty fall there on court 2. He seems to be all right, though. Lancaster player slipping over. The women's badminton now seems to have wrapped up, and hence attention now all turned to the Open first badminton currently taking place here in the sports hall. There are 2 games currently taking place, one on court 1 and one on court 2. The game taking place on court 3 appears to have wrapped up. I'm not entirely sure of the score. Lancaster very happy there on court 2 as York player hits the shuttlecock into the net. Like I've said, I'm not sure as to the exact scores that have taken place here, but once the game has wrapped up, they will be uploaded onto the Roses website, where you can see the overall score for Lancaster versus York in this Roses 2024. York very happy about a success on court 2. Lancaster player sliding on the floor and falling over, meaning York are able to score. Appears play may be starting to be resumed on court 3. Yes, they are back. I suspect having just completed a game and returning to another. On court 1, 21-16 for York. They seem to be taking a break now, so I suspect York won that last game on court 1. Intense play on court 2, close to the net. Lancaster player brings the ball close to the net. Shuttlecock, I apologise. Close to the net. York player returns it, and Lancaster player not able to run to get it in time. Another success for York on court 2 as Lancaster player hits it just outside of the lines. A game seems to have resumed on court 3 as well, so we currently have 2 games taking place. Although one may have just wrapped up on court 2, I'm not sure as to the final result. Lancaster player here looking somewhat frustrated. So potentially a win for York there on court 2. Lancaster players from court 2 currently having a conversation, probably hoping to improve, bring their game up, bring the energy. Currently there is 1 game taking place on court 3. If you head to the Roses Live website, you can find many different streams currently taking place, including the football men's 2nd, the rugby union men's 3rd, the swimming, the badminton open 1st. I mean, you're already here for that. Cheers for Lancaster on court 3, I believe, as Lancaster score another point on court 3. There is also the fencing and hockey outdoor open 2nd currently taking place. Lots of streams. You can find that on the Roses Live website, and also many of them will also be being streamed on the Roses Live YouTube. The current score between Lancaster and York is 83-52, with 172.5 points required to win. Looks like play is ready to resume on court 2, with a few York players getting into position on court 1. Not sure whether they're playing or just observing. Heavy hit from Lancaster player on court 2. They're really bringing their game here. Cheers for Lancaster on court 2 as York player hit the shuttlecock underneath the net. Close to the net, very heavy hits, now going longer rallies, but still able to return it to each other. Fantastic hit from Lancaster player. They're still going. And a land for Lancaster player. Lancaster gets that point. York player right next to the shuttlecock, but not able to hit it. And a game is resuming on court 1, so we now have 3 games currently taking place. This is the Open first badminton, or the men's Open first badminton.
are rallies right now on court 2. Play is resumed on court 1. Currently 2-1 for York. Clearly these two badminton teams are very evenly matched. It's 2-2 with one game for York on court 1, but all to play for, as the last game between these players on court 1 was very close. Another success for Lancaster, so 2-3 to York on court 1. Serve from Lancaster on court 1. Very high. York player hits it into the net. That is 2-4 to York on court 1, with 4 points for Lancaster and 2 points for York on court 1, with York up 1 as they won the last game. Getting more shuttlecocks out of the shuttlecock tube and getting ready to start serving. Lancaster serving. That shuttlecock going into Lancaster player's face, I believe. 2-5 for York on court 1, with play currently taking place on all 3 courts. Long volleys on court 1. Now close to the net. Lancaster player hitting it outside, able to return it, but not where it was supposed to go. 4-5 to York currently on court 1, with games still taking place on all 3 courts. Intense play on court 1. Very heavy hits. You can really hear the sound of the racket hitting that shuttlecock. Currently 5-5 on court 1. Some very exciting badminton going on here today. A serve from Lancaster on court 2. Lancaster player successfully scoring a point on court 2. So serving again with the shuttlecock. Taking his time on court 2. A hit into the net from York on court 2. Meaning Lancaster score that point, but York still supporting each other on court 2. On court 3, a hit into the net from Lancaster there. Means York score that point on court 3. Court 3, I believe, now is the game that has been going on for the longest. And maybe approaching the end of their game, and hence the intensity is definitely there. A bit of dejection coming from the Lancaster players on court 3. But still going. Energy potentially waning close to the net. York manages to hit it much further. Court 3. Intense play on court 3. Unfortunately, Lancaster player returns it, but with his legs wide, unable to hit it very high up, and so it is not successful. And York score that point. Intense play going on court 1 with lots of cheering. Currently 8-9 to York. So all to play for. Another point to Lancaster. Lancaster currently on 10 points on court 1. York on 8, but York with 1 game under their belt. Success for York, 9-10 on court 1. York scores on court 1. We are back neck and neck. On court 1, 10-10 points. All to play for here on court 1. And it appears a game has just wrapped up on court 3. I'm not sure as to the result of that. York players looking relatively happy, so potentially a win for York there. Interestingly, like the badminton when it first started up here at around 11:30, just after. A lot of the players probably tiring now. You can definitely see the sweat coming off of them. Lancaster doing very well initially, but York bringing it their game right now. Some intense play on court 1 taking place. York player ends up with the shuttlecock by their foot, unable to hit it back, and Lancaster scores another point. So Lancaster now serving on court 1. Gentle serve. York returns it with quite a heavy hit. Lancaster player, I believe, hitting it out. So that is 11-12 to York there on court 1. Lancaster player again going with the tactic of hitting it in a direction the York players won't be able to reach, but unfortunately that direction is out. Fantastic there for Lancaster. Manages to get that shuttlecock, hits it back, some continued rallies, and then Lancaster successful in getting the shuttlecock past York. A shuttlecock out of the court for York means Lancaster scores another point. It is currently 12-14 to York. Lancaster serving. Lancaster player returns it, but not where it's supposed to be. 13-14 to York on court 1. Court 2 still going. Lancaster serving, so I suspect Lancaster just scored a point. York player hitting very hard with the shuttlecock there. Really dynamic play, getting close up and then far away. A hit into the net by Lancaster. Much applause for York there. They seem very happy with that. I suspect they're approaching the end of their game. Still close on court 1. I believe York just scored a point, so it is 14-14 on court 1. It is all to play for. Two very evenly matched teams. Clearly both been training, working hard for this Roses. A success for Lancaster there. That is 15 points Lancaster now are on, while York are on 14. Who is to tell how this game will end here on court 1? 15-15 now on court 1. Court 2, I believe, still playing. Just waiting for a serve. A serve from Lancaster, so Lancaster must have scored a point on court 2. Serve from York on court 1. York just scored a point. 16-15 now on court 1. York score another point just there on court 1. Some discussion going on, so potentially not quite sure about that. Yeah, they're having a bit of a debate. Again, this hole in the net seems to be troubling them on court 1, but they're being very civil. Very sportsmanlike. Intense play on court 2. Very heavy hit from Lancaster player there. Lancaster just high-fiving each other briefly there as they are successful in scoring another point on court 2. Lancaster player hitting multiple times that shuttlecock there on court 1, giving York the point. They try to go close to the net. Now very long rallies. York getting close to the net. 17-17 currently on court 1. That applause there, I believe, from York for court 2. York now serving on court 2, I believe. Fantastic play there from Lancaster player, getting right up next to the net with his racket up. However, they were still not successful after York returned it, and I believe York just won that point on court 2. York scoring a point on court 1. This is such a close game taking place on court 1, 19-18. Serve from York. Just manages to get over the net there from York. Fantastic play. Lancaster player not able to return that other than into the net, hence scoring York the point. York serving again. I think the serve went out. Oh no, is that game over on court 1. 21-18, York wins that. Fantastic result for those York players. The game on court 2 also seems to be over. Hugs from York players, they seem to be very happy with that result. Some successes here on both sides for Lancaster and York, and a very close game was taking place on court 1, and I believe the other games were just as close. Lancaster doing well initially at the beginning of this stream, if you managed to catch it, but then York bringing their game and having lots of successes in the latter half of this tournament. That seems to be play over here for the men. We'll see if they return for another game. Lancaster players still seem to have spirits up despite losing those last games. York players smashing these. There are these. Lots of the spectators have these tubes, which they've been smashing against the floor as a show of support. It's very loud. It's very loud right now. I suspect you can hear it. While there is no play here, you can check out other streams and radio on the Roses Live website and also on the Roses Live YouTube. You can also head to University of York Radio and Bailrig FM for their coverage on their respective channels. This is coverage of Roses Live. A game looks like it might be starting back up on court 2. Players looking very tired at this stage though. They have been playing since around just after 11:30, after the previous badminton games ran over slightly. So I'm sure they're tiring by this point, but still determined. Lots of support from Lancaster, lots of people at the side here to support their players, cheering for the women's opposite. This sport hall very busy right now with 2 badminton games going on with the women's and the men's, and also squash taking place up here where I'm sitting, and much applause for that as well. Game is resuming on court 2. Lancaster scoring a point as York unable to return the shuttlecock there, but York still high-fiving each other, still keeping the morale up. A serve from Lancaster. York ready for it. Lancaster player taking his time. Gentle serve. Heavy hit there. York players try to return it, but they're not successful. A quick handshake from Lancaster players to celebrate, and they serve again. Determination from both sides here, and some intense play. Lancaster players unable to return that shuttlecock. York players smashing those tubes together in support of their players. I don't know where they got those tubes from, but they've been being used a lot here. Lancaster player almost falling over, unable to return the shuttlecock. York players again smashing those tubes against the ground, making lots of noise for their teammates. There is only currently one game taking place on court 2. York player unable to return the shuttlecock, and tense. Lancaster scoring another point. He looked very upset about not being able to return that. But they continue on. Lots of energy going into this here. Lancaster hitting the shuttlecock below the net, scoring York another point. There is one game remaining here in the middle court, court 2 as I've been calling it so far. Resuming play, very heavy hit from Lancaster player, not able to hit that one. York players quick handshake, very happy about that result. Serve from Lancaster now. York players ready for that serve. Hitting very hard there, those York players, causing the Lancaster players to hit the shuttlecock into the net, scoring York a point. This game is very close here. Lancaster scoring another point. I am not aware of the exact scores for this game, as I cannot see the scoreboard from where I'm sitting. But it seems to be neck and neck. All 4 players look like their energy is waning. They are sweaty, they are tired. Lancaster very happy about that success just there. I believe York hit the shuttlecock into the net. Hit into a serve into the net from Lancaster there. Hit. Success for Lancaster there. York serving that shuttlecock. Lancaster hitting it right back, and York not quick enough to return it. Serve from Lancaster. Long rally, but now close up to the net. Long rally again. Another long rally returned, and a hit into the net from York. A close match, it seems. Serve into the net from Lancaster player. Believe they're swapping who's serving now. No, York. Yeah. York now serving. York also serves into the net, so they're now even. Mistakes happen. Especially in a game this intense, it can be easy to get into your head. I believe that was another point scored. York now serving, suspect that was a point scored for York. Lancaster player falls over and hits the shuttlecock into the net. They're definitely getting tired. You can feel it in their energy right now. They want this game to be over, but they want it to be over with a win. Lancaster player serving, apologies, Lancaster player hitting close to the net, York player hitting long, Lancaster hitting long, and then York successful in gaining another point as the shuttlecock evades Lancaster. Long rally from York there. Lots of power and a success as the York players cheer them on from the side as their games are over. We currently only have one gap badminton game going on. The others have wrapped up. A hit into the net from York means another point for Lancaster. That seems to have ended the game. Or no, they're swapping. Lancaster players seeming quite exhausted. Taking a drink, having a moment to recharge. This seems like a very close game. Lancaster player going to bananas for fuel, very important. You can tell they're tiring, and a quick banana will be giving him the energy that he needs. Players not resumed yet. We currently have one badminton game going on. This is the Open First badminton currently taking place. Across from it, we also have the women's badminton, which you can also tune into. There are currently 3 games going on there. Looks like they're almost ready to start up again. Banana being eaten, waiting until he's fully chewed it. Looks like he's trying to get his energy, trying to pull up all the energy they currently have. Intense play, some very fast hits, having to have very fast reactions, all the players here. And now going slightly slower but higher. And I believe that was a success for York. If the smashing of the tubes from York is any indication. Point for Lancaster, I believe. York, I believe, still supporting their teammates even when they're unsuccessful. there are less supporters from York. It is mostly just the rest of the badminton team. A success for York there, and much, much louder applause than usual. Plays resumed. Intense, very fast, heavy hit, some longer rallies. Success for Lancaster, I believe, as the shuttlecock was out. Those two York players sat at the side, now finished. Absolutely smashing the ground with their tubes. Shuttlecock just skimming the net, but alas, lands on the opposite side, giving a point to York there. An intense game, if the energy of the players is any indication, as well as how much the crowd is clinging on to what's going on here. Lots of noise from York. Like I've said before, not so many supporters for York, mostly just the rest of the badminton team, as of course we are currently in Lancaster for this Roses. Many more supporters for Lancaster, but nonetheless, the York supporters, very loud here. Applause from the Lancaster supporters as Lancaster are successful in gaining another point. Serve from Lancaster there. York hitting it into the net with those tubes. Those two York players now sat at the side with those tubes again, trying to make up for lower numbers, but the same enthusiasm. Some very intense play just happened there. Very fast hits, I could hardly keep up. And York scored that point. Lancaster players just not quite fast enough to get the shuttlecock. Very powerful hit from Lancaster player there, scoring Lancaster that point. York player just not fast enough to hit the shuttlecock back. Taking their time to serve. York now serving, Lancaster hitting it back. Very heavy hit again. They're trying to catch each other off guard, but unfortunately, they catch themselves off guard. That was a very powerful hit, unfortunately, into the net for Lancaster, meaning York score a point. Play resumes. I believe that is Lancaster getting set up to serve, taking their time. This is the last game going on here. Everybody is watching, hanging on to this. Is an intense game. Very, very powerful hits, very fast, trying to catch each other off guard. Lancaster hitting the shuttlecock into the net. Another point for York. That cheering on, there was something in the women's badminton just happened. Brief pause, they're having a drink, trying to keep their energy up at this moment. There is only one game remaining, the other two courts currently empty. Not sure who won that 1 point, it was very close. I believe that was a point for York there, as Lancaster doesn't return the serve, but the serve is in the serving box, so completely legal. Slower hits this time, speeding up in energy somewhat, going very wide. Lancaster successful in scoring that point as it goes underneath the leg of York player. Some fantastic play currently going on. Only one match currently taking place on court 2. A hit into the net from York will be a point for Lancaster. Lancaster players looking very happy about that. A quick high five before they resume. Lancaster currently serving. Serve, short, slower, and that was out. Lancaster just letting that shuttlecock go by. It is out, and that sounds like that is a win from Lancaster. Player currently running around, high five between each other. Those two Lancaster players very happy with that success. Hugs for each other. Lancaster very happy with that success. These are two very evenly matched badminton teams. Lots of high fives between the Lancaster team, lots of excitement. York players still supporting each other despite that loss. And people seem to be dispersing now. Lancaster chatting about that win, very happy with that. All the players supporting each other. Even though there are, different matches going on, this is a team that have been working together, training for Roses. Same for York, and they're very happy to see each other succeed. At the end of the day, these sports teams have been training and preparing very hard for Roses, and they're so evenly matched. Now we can see they're starting to pack up the badminton. And that is the end of the Open First Badminton here in the Sports Hall today. People are packing up. Thanks so much for joining me on this live stream of the Men's First Badminton. You can catch other sports on Roses Live website and also the Roses Live YouTube channel. All this media coverage being brought to you by the Roses media team, brought to you by both York and Lancaster's media teams, including Bailrig FM, LA1 TV, Scan, University of York Radio.